two very good questions. The first one, I'm a business person. I spent the last, until 2 years ago, 32 years of my life in business. And I don't mind telling you, if the public wants to give me a tax break, I'll be grateful. Okay? And if there's no demand for my product, I'll put the money in my pocket and say thank you. Okay? Whether I get a tax break or not, if there's a demand for my product, I will invest. I'll expand my production, I'll create more jobs, and I will invest whether I get the tax break or not. Okay? But a tax break without a demand for my product is meaningless other than I get to put more money in my pocket. So as a business person, I want to have a strong, vibrant middle class that has money to buy my goods and my services, which is why Henry Ford insisted on raising the wages for the workers in the Ford Motor Company he created, because he wanted to make sure they had enough money to buy a Ford. So, in my judgment, it's a combination. You have to have an entrepreneurial business spirit that's not afraid to invest. You want to provide incentives for them to invest. Some are more incentivized than others. So, for example, we'll give you a tax credit if you purchase new equipment. Investing in new production, in my judgment, is a better tax incentive than we're just going to give you a tax break because we like you. So, to me, as a business person, always having that demand for my product has always been more important than the tax benefits and considerations. And then the second question that you asked is also
second question, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people might not have heard those questions. Would you repeat what she said on the second question?
On the second, could you repeat it?
CEO's primary objective is to increase their stock value. And keeping wages low is part of increasing that stock value, increasing or how do you solve that?
Yeah, and that's also, I think, an excellent question, okay? Because you are 100% right. As a business person, my job and my obligation to my employees is to maximize our production, maximize our sales, maximize our profits, so that we can keep our business moving forward and staying in business, and thereby protecting those jobs, protecting and preserving that business. That's the primary objective of a CEO. And I have been a CEO, and I understand that. You have to do that, okay? Now, having said that, that's what a CEO's goal and objective is, okay? But we decided somewhere along the way that we were going to have a democratic society where we would all kind of come together, and we might realize that this person has certain objectives and that person has different ones, and this person has different ones, and that person has different ones, and the CEO may very well have different ones. But we're going to kind of come together through democratic processes, and we're going to try to decide what we all want for ourselves as a community, as a society. And like a football game, when it comes to business, we employ some standards, okay? We employ some rules. And smart people, business people, understand that. They're comfortable with that. I consider it an advantage. I've been around for a while. Gives you a perspective on things. And I was in public life when the environmental movement was started. And the Mississippi River was a cesspool. And you didn't want to swim in it. You certainly didn't want to eat any of the fish out of it. And we had a number of municipalities that were pouring their raw effluent into it. You had a number of businesses and industries that were pouring their toxic substances into it. Many of them were owned, in fact, most of them were owned by parties outside of Minnesota, okay? The mill in Little Falls is owned by Walter P., who lived in Manhattan, okay? And the industry, all the paper mills, were very opposed to any kind of environmental standards. Why? Well, because it took money off their profit. You know, I understand their position, but I had one of the mills was owned by a Minnesotan who lived on the Mississippi. And he kind of snuck into my office in the middle of the night and said, "No, don't tell my partners, but, you know, I want to see this river cleaned up. I live on it. And if I spend all the money that's needed for me to install all the pollution abatement controls and equipment, I will be at an economic, political disadvantage to all those who are not doing that. So I want you to pass those rules and those regs, because I'd like a clean river. And then that will not become a component of how I have to compete. So in the same way, you know, you take whatever you like, Social Security, Medicare. As a business person, if I, you know, as a business person, you have to say, I don't want to pay that. You know, get rid of it. Well, you know, society said, you know, hey, look, we're all in this thing together. Some of us are going to survive longer than others. Let's all throw some money in the kitty. Let the business pay a portion of it, the employee pay a portion of it, and then those of us who are lucky enough to go will have some Social Security benefits and health care. Well, guess what? You know, if it were a matter of choice, most businesses wouldn't do it. And in fact, to do so might be a violation of their responsibility. Their responsibility is to make a profit. So we step in and we say, yeah, okay, we want you all to make a profit. But here's some rules that you're all going to have to play by. You're all going to have to throw a little bit into the Social Security and Medicare. You're all going to have to abide by certain health and safety rules. You're all going to have to abide by certain environmental. So now you can all go out and compete, but not on the basis of that. In the same way in a sporting event, you know, for football players, you can't hit them in the head anymore. That's a nice way to knock out the competition, you know. And if it were allowable, when it was allowable, they were doing it a lot. But now it's going to cost you, you know, to hit that quarterback. So that's how you have to justify. You have to understand what the CEO's goals and objectives are. And you're 100% right. It's to make a buck, because that's what preserves that business. That's what preserves those jobs. And it's our job as citizens to see how that fits in with what we want to accomplish as a society. And so that's the best answer I can come up with for that.
Don't you think that CEO has a moral obligation to consider the welfare of the people, the employees who are making that money?
Well,
That's a different moral.
no, I think they do, Irma. I think they do. But if it puts them in a competitively disadvantaged position, they won't be in business. And that's where I think we have to get over the notion that it's businesses' responsibility to take care of our social and our jointly agreed on obligation. That's our obligation as citizens. Because you can clearly see for the business community to do that on their own, and God bless and applaud those that do it and can still stay in business. And you want to applaud that, you want to encourage that, but as a practical matter, you know, that is not the solution. And the answer would be, you know, in trade. You know, in trade. You know, if we want to, you know, allow a business to supply our goods and services where there are no considerations for health, for safety, for unemployment, for, you know, then we're going to become a banana republic. And so we have to say, is that what we want? I say no. So it's a nice notion that business should be moral, and they should be, and that they should take care of that, and indeed they should. But business, remind yourself, business is in the business of making money, and that's good. It's a wonderful thing. We're in the business of laying down the foundation, laying down the rules, what's gonna be fair competition, and business participates in that. You know, the moral business people are in there, and they're saying, yeah, you know, like the guy who snuck into my office in the middle of the night, you know, he didn't want to be the scourge of all his colleagues and the bills up and down, right? He wanted to see that moral responsibility exercised.